Happy day, people. So today we're going to talk about some more issues that are currently going on, like the apparent, um, when you use the word conspiracy, people start making up all kinds of things like, oh, crazy person, oh, paranoid. But is it a conspiracy if it's actually happened? As an example, if people talked about the assassination of President Lincoln, immediately thoughts that came up were, oh, you believe in a conspiracy. However, 100 years after his assassination, documents were released that came to light that there was, in fact, a conspiracy to assassinate Lincoln before John Wilkes Booth ever showed up at the theater. So sometimes those things are true. At the moment, it appears that there is a conspiracy to create chaos and bring about the downfall of American society. Some items that are taken straight from communist playbooks are to create violent class divisions. Only through violent revolution and struggle can the growth be brought to pass. It's another statement from Karl Marx. Now, in America, that can be fairly easily done. There's the obvious black versus white, because between institutional slavery and Jim Crow laws, the history is still very recent. It was literally only 50 years ago that there were signs that stated that only white people could use these water fountains and nobody else, and black people were not welcome in towns after dark. In fact, for those who may wish to look it up, look up the history of Vidor, Texas. It was sometime in the mid-70s when they were finally required by the state to remove a billboard at the edge of town stating that black people were not welcome there. So it's very easy to create that class division. Then you have feminism. You have feminists versus the patriarchy. Once again, it was not until the 1990s that date rape became an actual crime. There are women you can speak to in the workforce right now who can tell you how put out or get out actually happened. And then, of course, for some reason, people want to bring the LGBTQ community against everyone else because, seriously, there are places that still happens. Why? For the love of God. There was one that happened on a U.S. Army base about almost 20 years ago, where at the time people could not be openly gay in the military. But there was a soldier that people believed was gay. Someone was teasing him. They took it too far, started bullying him, pushed him, assaulted him, and then proceeded to get their ass whooped. Yes, the alleged gay man beat the living crap out of the alleged alpha male straight guy, who then 3 days later beat the allegedly gay man to death with a baseball bat. So we have that class division. Today we are seeing an unprecedented, well, for the last year, really, we're 2 years even, we are seeing an unprecedented push to ensure and to inflame those divisions. BLM, Black Lives Matter, as an idea is very true. Black people's lives matter. Some people starting an organization called Black Lives Matter with the avowed Marxist ideology and the announced intent to destroy the American way of life creates a division, because if you say you do not support BLM, people assume that you mean you do not support black people. If you say you do not support the drag queen story hour for children at the library, then allegedly you are anti-LGBTQ. Personally, I'd like to bring back Shelley Duvall as the storyteller and let her read stories to little kids. Once they become older and, their questions about why this person looks the way they do can be answered honestly, objectively, and with understanding. Okay. But when they're 3 and 4, they really don't know why this person looks like Uncle Ted, whose boyfriend wanted them to go on a boat trip. There's a very distinct difference between the LGBTQ community and pervs. So this week, some individual, yet a crazy white guy, shot up some massage parlors. While being questioned by police, this individual stated he had a sex addiction and had to violently remove the temptations to his sex addiction. The response from the public media and from the DA's office were that no, he doesn't get to decide why he did it. It was because of white supremacy. Okay. A confession from the perpetrator is why they're doing something. That's why it's called a confession. White people are not inherently evil. I understand that seems to be a popular belief, especially among elitist white people, which is rather peculiar because that would mean they themselves are. Yeah. We are all human beings. It's not that hard to understand. Yes, we all look different. I, in point of fact, look different from many other people of European ancestry. So there was further, with less coverage, a meeting between Mr. Blinken from our State Department and members of the Chinese Communist Party in Anchorage, Alaska, where the members of the CCP started blatantly degrading America as a terrible country. And the fact that BLM exists proves that we are a horrible, racist country with no democracy and no sense of social morals. To which, allegedly, Mr. Blinken apologized and stated that Americans have so much to learn from the CCP about being better. Okay, the CCP are a racist ethnic organization that only permit ethnically Chinese citizens to be leading members of their party. They actively discriminate against Uyghur Muslims and Chinese citizens who follow the belief of Falun Gong. The Chinese Communist Party actively uses slave labor. They actively degrade everyone else on the planet who are not ethnically Chinese. Now remember, Chinese is a nationality. China is a country. So if I say the Chinese virus, that's because it came from China, from a lab owned and operated by the Chinese Communist Party, not the people of China. And let's face it, folks, if you're American, everyone in America knows the Chinese buffet is a great place to get great food. So we know with evidence that everyone in the world is capable of liking the people who come from the culture of that nation. America happens to be an exceptional country. We have led the way on many social issues. We may not have been the first country to try to strive to end racial slavery, because actually Great Britain, the British Empire, they actively tried to do that. We put it in law. The United States developed as a revolution of the people getting to choose their representatives, not being told what to do like a bunch of peasants. America was one of the first countries to admit that women have a right to vote. In point of fact, in the American colonies, women had a right to vote before any other country on the planet. But our patriarchy decided to take that out of our institutions over the course of time, at least at the federal level. And we reinstituted. The majority of the founding fathers felt that all men are created equal should apply to all human beings. So yes, America is an exceptional country. It's the greatest country on the planet. For me, for many people, it's such a great country that millions of people try to move here every year. Over 100,000 came illegally into the country last month because America is such a great country. Now, it's not great for some people. Joseph Stalin wouldn't have enjoyed it. Xi Jinping doesn't enjoy it. Benito Mussolini wouldn't have enjoyed it. Not everyone can thrive here because we don't like people with evil intents. This is a great country, and we need to work together because we are all Americans. Yes, there are people who want to move here solely to get a job. Okay. There are people who move from New York to California to get a job. There are people who've been in this country illegally for 20 years. Registering them as residents of the community does not mean that our laws are invalid. It means that we're recognizing somebody who's peacefully, happily, and productively been a member of our community for 2 decades. And if someone might want to notice that if America is as terrible as our current administration is wanting to tell people and our social justice warriors want to tell people, why are they not trying to migrate to? These people are trying to migrate to China. They're not trying to migrate to Venezuela. They're not trying to migrate to Cuba. In fact, we have people in Congress who migrated here from Somalia, and they have no intention of going back. And it's racist if you say, why don't they take a look at it? That's not racist, it's objective. If a person's family had to move here for a better life, then maybe the country they came from is not a great place. And maybe people should respect this country as not only the great place that it is, because we do have problems, but the great place it can become. And socialism never gets there. Have a great week.